Hi, thanks for joining us today. My name is Leo Cuello with the National Health Law Program, and I'm here to talk to you about Medicaid. What else? First of all, I just want to start by saying I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're finding beautiful things amidst the chaos. I hope you're getting outside. I hope you're dealing with this day by day as well as any of us can. I also hope you have access to toilet paper, but only your fair share of toilet paper, right? Come on, people, come on. You're better than this. You're better than this. So, as you know, we usually record these live in front of a studio audience, but today I'm alone. In a basement by myself. So sorry. I'm so sorry about that. You have no idea how sorry I am. We've been getting a lot of questions. Questions about Section 1135 authority. What is it? How is it different than Section 1115? Should my state be doing 1115 or 1135? And so I thought I would just take some time today to talk a little bit about 1135 and 1115. If I'm a little more honest, I'm not allowed to go anywhere, or do anything else. So, why not talk to you about this? So I want to make 5 points, which I'll try and move through quickly. The first point is definitely the toughest because it is highly technical, complex point, but I think it's really important to make. So if you're watching at home, just try and keep up with me here, okay? Section 1135 is the right authority for HHS to be dealing with the COVID public health emergency in Medicaid, because Section 1135 is an authority that was designed for public health emergencies. That's it. Yeah, it's kind of obvious, right? This is the waiver authority that HHS should be using to approve all kinds of things to respond to the COVID crisis, right? It gives HHS the authority to waive provisions of law, right, to apply exceptions to the normal rules to deal with the emergency. The statute actually says that it is to make sure that there are sufficient services to meet the needs of individuals during an emergency. Ding, 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 right? That's exactly what we need right now. Contrast that with Section 1115, right, which is a demonstration authority. It's to do pilot programs, right, innovative experiments that could take years to play out. That is clearly not what we need right now. So, unfortunately, CMS hasn't really been using its 1135 authority to approve a lot of things that could be helpful, and is instead pushing some of that decision-making power to 1115, right? So they're looking at 1135 too narrowly, and that's a mistake. Now, this is more than semantics. It's more than the fact that this is a public health or a public emergency authority. It's also evidence of Congress's intent for the law, right? Which some people still care about. I want to really stress that that's really important, right? That's what this authority is for. But there's a lot more reasons. So let me go to my second point. My second point is that, in general, right, waivers should make us all a little nervous, right? A little uncomfortable. Why? Because, of course, they are a flexibility to not comply with the law, right? And so that could be subject to abuse in the wrong hands. Really a lot of potential for that, as we've discovered recently. But 1135, right, is less prone to abuse. Why? Well, just think for a second. Imagine, there was some evil policymaker out there intent on reducing care for the Medicaid population, do you think they're out there saying, hey, let's come up with an 1135 waiver that will harm Medicaid enrollees, and we'll just wait and wait and wait until we get a simultaneous national emergency and national public health emergency, and then we will unleash our plan and wreak havoc on Medicaid enrollees, right? That's not really a likely thing, right? So 1135 is not ripe for abuse. Sure, there are some concerns, and we'll talk some about those, but absolutely this authority is less prone to abuse. So let's talk about the third reason why I really think CMS is making a mistake here, which is time frames. So the 1135 waiver triggers when there is, as I said, a national emergency simultaneous with a public health emergency, and then it lasts for 60 days. And you can re-up in short equivalent increments, right? But it doesn't last years like an 1115 waiver. In some cases, decades. So the amount of lasting damage that you could do to Medicaid if you did have some kind of malintent is much narrower, right? Because the 1135 authority ends when the public health emergency ends, at that exact moment, right? So it's short-lived. There's only so much harm you can do. Fourth point I want to make is the 1115 process now includes really important transparency requirements that have changed the way 1115 operates. What do those include? Those include public hearings, a 30-day state comment period, followed by a 30-day federal comment period. So you're looking at a process that at a minimum takes about 3 months. Now, does that make sense for a demonstration project that might last for a decade? Yeah, absolutely that makes sense. Does that make sense for responding to COVID-19 or some other health emergency? Nuh-uh, right? That doesn't make any sense at all. So by trying to use 1115 to deal with COVID, CMS basically has two choices, right? Their first choice is they totally ignore the transparency process, which is a terrible idea. And their second choice is they comply with it, and it takes like 90 days to do anything, which is also a terrible idea. So we don't want a world where CMS is on the fly skipping around the transparency requirements because they judge that there's a situation that requires them to move quicker, right? That's not what we want. We want a world where in Section 1115, you're doing a demonstration and you're taking the time to make sure you get it right. And when there's a public health emergency, you're moving quickly, right? That makes sense. And guess what? That's kind of the way Congress is writing these statutes. Which takes us to my fifth and final point. The other thing about Section 1115 demonstrations that you have to remember is they're supposed to be experimental, right? There is supposed to be a hypothesis, an experiment to test that hypothesis. You're supposed to collect data, and then you're supposed to do evaluation of that data. Is that something we want to be doing during a COVID-19 crisis? No, it doesn't make any sense at all. So again, CMS has this choice. They can waste a lot of time, make states waste a lot of time going through this whole demonstration process, or they can cut corners, right? And the problem is they cut corners on that demonstration requirement now, and then later they've set a precedent where the demonstration requirement is really weakened, maybe even eviscerated. And you have to remember, CMS's recent track record on that demonstration requirement is not particularly great, right? They have recently approved a bunch of waivers that have no discernible experiment in them. For example, they approved waivers to just stop providing transportation services. What's the experiment, right? Like, how much are we going to reduce traffic jams? Like, there literally is no experiment there, right? So it's really bad for them to be using this authority here. So big picture, right? These flexibilities are all open to abuse if they're not used well. And asking CMS to use 1115 to deal with emergency situations is inviting problems, right? It's inviting short-term problems and long-term problems for the integrity of Congress's law, because 1115 was not made to deal with emergencies. It was made to deal with experiments, right? With pilot programs. And that's why CMS's approach is so problematic. What CMS's approach has been to basically say, okay, what has been previously done under 1135, we'll just, cookie cutter, green light those things, but we're not going to do anything more. So we'll just copy and paste existing approvals, but we're not going to do anything more. We're not going to look at anything more. And so you end up with this world where they have such a narrow view of 1135 that they are then pushing all of the other stuff, important stuff states are asking for, over to the 1115 realm, right? And 1115 is the wrong tool. CMS is hitting the nail on the head with the hacksaw, right? It doesn't make any sense. So that's what's going on. So we certainly encourage CMS and everyone else to start using 1135 to deal with this emergency, because that's what makes the most sense for the Medicaid program. Now, having said that, as a lot of states are getting 1135 approvals, basically half of them have them at this point, I want to say just because 1135 is the right tool doesn't mean it's always being used well. Even though CMS has approved very little through 1135, while they've done some things that are positive, they've also done other things that raise a lot of concerns. So what I would encourage you to do is be on the lookout for NHELP blogs, NHELP papers, a webinar maybe coming soon, where we're going to talk about what's going on in more detail, what are the problems, what are the things you should be worried about as different things happen under 1135 and other authorities, quite frankly. So, okay, even under quarantine and the incredible boredom you must have, you can't possibly want to hear any more about Social Security Act waiver authorities. So I'm going to move this to a wrap. But I want to thank you for being with me and hanging in. I'm going to ask you to please keep staying home if you can. I'm going to ask you to just take time during your day to breathe deep. I hope you're all well. Maybe this is a moment for some self-reflection, right? I've realized some things. I never thought that I would be in a place where I actually missed schlepping across town to go to a meeting. So, anything is possible, people. I'm just wishing you the best of health, physical health, mental health. And I want to thank you for all the work you do. Thank you for being with us. And you'll be seeing us again real soon, I hope. Bye-bye.